Thanks, John. Hello, everyone. As John says, I'm Head of Communities and Engagement at Springer Nature, so I'm responsible for the overall strategy for our online community blogs. And as John says, we do see this as the word we use is strategic partnership rather than vendor, although vendor is the relationship with the vendor is why we are here in this session, because we really do look at the strategy together. So this is another quote from Stephen. So this kind of is why we have this relationship. So what we didn't want was a huge new social network for scientists to try and compete with existing social networks, Facebook, Twitter, those that some of you may use. For us, it's really about smaller, niche, expert-led community sites. So as I say, it's expert-led communities, so this is our authors who publish mostly with Nature-branded journals, but also other titles. And the niche is really key there. We're not looking for maximum reach or maximum audience. We're looking to engage with small niche communities, and that could be chemists or astronomers or members of a particular editorial board. We've called it there a safe space away from social noise. That's not to say that the sites are private, although they can be private. A lot of them are public, but they're areas where everybody has a similar expertise. We're trying to enhance the scientific conversation. What we find, in fact, is that a lot of the conversation happens offline. It doesn't happen on the community. A lot of the engagement isn't on Zapnito itself. It may be on social media or it may be face-to-face, but we're trying to add an extra layer on top of the peer-reviewed content. Providing development and collaboration opportunities has been really interesting in that I think through this relationship we have access to other people who are doing something similar, because this for us was very new. And it's a new way to engage with Springer Nature, its journals and people. For us, I think this is increasingly important, that as a publisher we're shown to add value. You know, we are a commercial publisher, so we want to be adding value, want to be showing we're supporting the research community. So we have several different types of sites. The URLs are quite small, but you can visit each of these. Most of what we use our partnership for is scientific research communities. So this is a mix of content from our authors, from editors, nature editors, and also from other academic researchers in this field. So this is a community for people who work in ecology and evolution. About half the content is from our authors, so it's a kind of blog type post. The true story behind that, we call it behind the paper, the true story, the challenges they had, the collaborations they had. So content that wouldn't be suitable for the peer-reviewed journal, but was a bit more kind of personal blog type content. At the moment we publish about 100 author posts a month. So we're getting up quite high volume now on 8 different subject sites. And really this is about showing that we are trusted partners for the research community. It's also a great way for authors to promote their work. It gives them, allows them to publish something on a Nature platform. It's worth noting that the sites are not edited, so we don't edit the content. The authors write whatever they want to write, and as long as it isn't libelous or doesn't break our terms of use, we allow that there. So that's been an internal challenge for us as publishers and editors to host unedited content, but that's part of our goal as having communities. A very different type of site we have, which also is on the same platform, are our journal editorial board communities. So these are private. You cannot access these unless you have a login. And we use these more for communication. So in some ways, this is moving technologically beyond email. So we send a lot of emails to our board, as I'm sure any of you who work on journals do. And now for the BMC series and also for scientific reports, We invite them to join an editorial board site, and then the communication about the journal is on the site, so a guidance for new editors, information about conferences and content in the journal. So it enhances communication. Our hope is that we will also be able to have a bit more discussion and also strengthen our relationship with the board. As John indicated, we also have some sponsored sites. So direct revenue is not a major goal for us with the communities. It's more strengthening relationships. But we do have some sponsored sites. This is an example. It was a landmark paper published in Nature, and we had a sponsor who wanted to create an interactive figure from the paper. So it's all factors for how the immune system is important in cancer, and then this site can be edited in real time by the community. So again, it's community engagement. It's something which we could have built, but we would have struggled to build. It probably would have taken us too long. So we host this community engagement, community discussion on this live figure on Zapnito. So the themes coming through about relationships. It's building stronger relationships. Ultimately, the goal is that through having stronger relationships, people will choose us as a publisher. And it's mostly content. We're very content focused as a publisher. As I say, about half the content is commissioned from our authors, and then we have content from editors and other researchers. So probably about 1 post in 5 are unsolicited at the moment. But it's not just about content, because if it was just content, we would probably host it on nature.com or springernature.com. We also look for engagement with that content, so we want discussion, social sharing, and also networking, so people find people who have similar interests on the site. And again, one of the features we use is that everyone gets an individual login. They have certain permissions associated to that login. So that's how the technology is useful for us. It's really important that the communities support the journal strategy. If any of you have worked on blogs or social media, they're a nice thing to have, but they do take a lot of time. And so I think you have to clearly show this is how this kind of nice to have supports the journal strategy. So it's mostly about content, attracting submissions to the journal, engagement with that content. We use the communities quite heavily for supporting new journal launches. So where we have a new launch in chemistry, we kind of attract readers and authors to that new journal on our chemistry community, where we have established authors from our journals already visiting, reading and writing content. And revenues there, again, we're mostly looking at indirect revenue, but we do have some sponsors, and the platform allows that very easily. Just to go a bit deeper into behind the paper, I'd encourage you, if you're interested, to read some of these. There's some really interesting stories there, kind of the challenges people had, as I say, the collaborations, the unexpected findings. Some of them make for really interesting stories. This is an article about brain size published in Nature, Ecology and Evolution. You can see the authors share images there, and often these images are adding quite a lot to the understanding of the peer-reviewed research, but we either couldn't host this or wouldn't choose to host this with the article itself. So it's telling the author's personal story, it's giving them a platform, it's raising their visibility. It's also, for us, user-generated content marketing, so it's promoting our journal through storytelling, essentially. And often the researchers will, through no prompting from us, will talk about other products and services that we offer as well, like the research data support service. So this has been a real success for us, and this was really trial and error. We tried a number of different types of content on the community, and this was just one that was very successful. These are some of the quotes we have from authors about why they find this useful, because we find it useful, but we want to make sure this really does support the research community. So it adds a personal aspect to science, it brings back some opinion and experience. It's a useful way to gain skills about science communication, is interesting feedback we've had. And for me, it was very interesting to see that Researchers are using communities and blogs to discover science, and it's the same with social media. Researchers now are not just using PubMed or even Google or Google Scholar. They are finding scientific research articles through blogs and social media, which to me, as a former researcher, was a great surprise because I certainly never did, although that was a while ago. But clearly, researchers still are now. So behind the paper where the authors write about their articles is also a source of journal traffic. It's a minor source of journal traffic. It's probably about 1% of traffic on those journals that we have relevant communities. But it's high quality traffic. We have some evidence that people who visit our journal pages through communities are spending longer on the site. They're more likely to download the article PDF, for example. And the blue kind of box there, button, is a good example where we requested some technological development. As John had said, we get these 100 days, custom days a year, and we said, well, wouldn't it be useful, rather than adding a hyperlink to the article, if there was a button and the author could add the URL, it creates a button, read the paper, and then we can track that. And so that actually didn't take long at all to build, but it's been very useful for us. We also, this wasn't an initial goal, but we found that, for want of a better phrase, the communities are humanizing our journals and humanizing us as a publisher. Obviously, we all are humans who work at the journal, but it adds a kind of personal, more human, more relatable side to us as a publisher rather than a faceless publisher, particularly where we have editors who are writing on the communities and we have feedback that the content from our editors is really valuable. This is just an example. It's a post just asking what conferences should we attend in ecology and evolutionary biology. And we had lots of responses, a huge number of responses from the community. This post itself got a lot of traffic. So it's a useful resource for us, but because it's on a public site, it's also used by other researchers, as well as adding this, we want to know what you think, and we're people like you, kind of the humanizing aspect. And again, we have feedback that the research community value this. They say it's rare to have this contact with an editor, and it's nice to know the background of journal editors. So this is a bit of a summary. So as John had said, we have 30 active communities. We're now starting to get quite good traffic. So we're on about 1.7 million pages. I think we're going to get about 1.9 million by the end of the year, not quite 2 million. And we've published more than 2,000 pieces of content this year. As I say, about half of those are from our authors. About 1,000 authors have written this year. And then just a summary of our goals. So increasing journal awareness, fostering collaboration, improving customer understanding. Launching new products and services has been really key for us, using the communities to do that, as well as enabling innovation and some revenue. So if you want to take a look, there's a landing page for our communities here, communities.nature.com. And then I think we're on to our panel discussion.